I'd like to call Public Works Committee meeting to order. Roll call, please.
Alderman Wesley.
Here.
Alderman Police.
Here.
Alderman Lewitan.
Here.
Alderman Shockey.
Here.
Alderman Cadella.
Here.
Alderman Winger. Alderman Coles.
Here.
Alderman Knight.
Here. Next up is approval of minutes of October 23rd, 2008. May I have a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Second? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? No opposed, motion carries. Next up, report and recommendation, grade separation, other safety alternatives endorsement. We have CTE and Smith Engineering here, I believe. If you gentlemen would like to give your names and start your presentation.
There's just one question. Who's the lead agency on this project?
CTE.
Okay, thank you. While you're setting up, I would like to ask one more question. Does CTE subcontract Smith Engineer out, and is there a cost added on the project?
The way it was handled is CTE is the lead agency and subcontracted Smith, and we did what they call a zero-sum supplement. It takes some fee away from CTE and gives it to Smith. So the net result to the city is $0.
Thank you.
We go to the next slide. Okay, we're here today to kind of follow up on our meeting from April of this year, where we initially presented the safety alternate. This kind of gives a brief history of everything that's gone on in the project. I'm not going to reiterate the whole storyline, but basically what it's saying is in April of '08, the actual safety alternate headed by the safety committee was initially presented. The safety alternate, as you all remember, mitigated some of the concerns from the last public meeting where we presented the two grade separation alternates. The safety alternate kind of minimizes the impacts to the neighborhoods, minimizes the displacements, and focuses more on adding auxiliary lanes and more minor type improvements. The one thing that changes from the April meeting is we still recognize the need to improve emergency vehicle access. And what I mean by that is the plan presented in April didn't allow emergency vehicles to get from the north side of the tracks to the south when a train blockage was there. So the plan you see here today takes all the recommendations from the safety committee that's presented in April and basically adds this bypass lane connecting the north leg of Wooddale Road to the west leg of Irving Park. The connections, you can see, it ties in at Edgebrook and right here just north of Commercial. Kind of go over some of this.
Sure. I'm Ron Crawl. I'm with Smith Engineering. CTE brought us on as the sub-consultant. What our plan is now is with the schedule and the introduction of this jug handle element, which is going to provide the connectivity for the north and south for the emergency vehicles. Because that hasn't been seen by the general public, we are going to take that out to a public information meeting. It won't be as grandiose as the last one, but it'll basically provide options 2, options 2A, and this safety improvement option. And the goal of that meeting would be to get public input on which is the preferred option to move forward with. From that point, what CTE and Smith will do is it'll take some revisions to the environmental document that IDOT requires, the federal government requires. The environmental assessment will massage the purpose and need such that this the alternative that is chosen or that is preferred from that meeting is accounted for in the document. We'll submit that document to the federal government, the FHWA. We have to do that and get their approval before we're allowed to go to a public hearing. Once they provide us the go-ahead, then we have to tell them and indicate to them that we need to go to a public hearing, would like to go to a public hearing, and put something in the register, which is, it's either 30 or 45 days prior to that. So that puts us in a public hearing basically in March to present to the public the preferred alternative. The time frame after that is to get any comments, receive any comments from the public that might happen at the public hearing, address those comments, if necessary, adjust the environmental assessment, do a final environmental assessment, submit that, get that signed, ultimately get the finding of no significant impact, the FONSI, and from there we can get phase 1 design approval. That's it.
We got a question here.
Sure.
You're saying that public informational meeting, so are you telling me that we're not going to make any motion here tonight until we have this public hearing? Do we have to do that before we make any kind of motion tonight?
No, I think the committee can go on record with its preferred alternative and its recommendation. If you're dropping two of the alternatives to present that to the public, I think the committee can go on record on that. But before we get into general discussion, other than Mr. Murma's comments, perhaps you want to go more in detail and explain the benefits of what this alternative is and what you're doing, where you're adding lights, where you're not, what you're doing with lanes of traffic, et cetera. It'll give us a little more briefing on it.
Yeah, I was just going to speak to what we're looking to do here tonight. What we are looking to do here tonight is have the consultants explain, break it down point by point, what exactly is in the safety alternative. And then the hopes are that the committee will then endorse the safety alternative. And then we would present it at a public meeting where the public can give input on this before the council would officially endorse this alternative. So tonight it's just a committee recommendation that the safety alternative is a good option.
Can I ask one? Can I ask one question? When are you looking to go public meeting?
Public informational meeting in November, just to
Well, that-
show this to them.
Oh, so
Public hearing is different than public meeting. So tonight, we're going to show you this plan, and then we're going to show it to the public in November.
and then it comes back to us after the
In December.
30 days.
Yeah, in December.
Okay.
Want me to call on you next time?
Okay, starting on the west leg of Irving Park, basically the only additions on this side is we would be adding a right turn lane in front of the bank. It's eastbound to southbound, where there's no current dedicated right turn lane. The plan calls for that. Coming the opposite way on Irving Park, the problem out there now is Front Street bypass will remain. The problem is a lot of times it's blocked, so you can't even get to it. So one of the recommendations coming out of the safety committee was extend the access to that Front Street bypass all the way back to, I believe it is Oak Street. Basically what that does is that adds a lane in front of the bank where there's a grass parkway right now. That would just be an extension of that Front Street bypass. We did recognize a safety problem. Is a lot of people would try to cross the tracks and they have left turn access to Walnut and Elmwood, and that's not really the safest conditions out there. So what we tried to do is consolidate that access. And we basically closed off Elmwood and cul-de-saced it there so you can actually provide a proper left turn lane one street down, which would be at, I think that's Oak Avenue. On the south leg of Wooddale Road, to actually make use of this new bypass lane, if you're coming north on Wooddale Road, the actual configuration of the existing left turn pockets out there are so tiny that there'd be no way you could skip around and actually jump that the people backed up at the light. So we've actually extended those left turn bays all the way from the intersection back to Division Street. What that's going to allow, if there ever was a blockage at the train, you would have access coming up Wooddale Road, and you could just slip into that left turn lane. And, if you needed to get by, it's more for emergency vehicles and basically people needing to access or bypass the queue at that location. Division Street, we are addressing the problem of afternoon commuters exiting the Metro lot. There will be a signal at Division Street. What this is going to allow in place of the police officers that are out there, the signal will give them priority and let them turn left and right out of the intersection. This is a recommendation coming out of the Safety Committee. And finally, on the north leg here, the actual existing configuration of Commercial Street was too close to the intersection, and that really precluded the available storage you could give to people coming south on Wooddale wanting to turn left. So by basically removing that section of Commercial Street and moving it further to the north, you can provide a more standard design and a safer design, allowing those left turns on Wooddale Road to kind of get in their own left turn lane and get out of through traffic. The new addition that you're seeing today is this jug handle in the northwest quadrant. Again, that's going to, number one, function as a relief valve for the heavy movement of people coming down Wooddale and turning right. It's actually a movement that warrants, if that jug handle wasn't there, it would warrant 2 right turn lanes. This is kind of a modified and more safe design to that option. And as I mentioned earlier, it's primarily to provide emergency service mobility north and south of the tracks if there ever were some sort of blockage at the train.
And the traffic light modifications?
Oh, and last but not least, and this comes out of every public meeting we're at, there will be a new signal at the intersection of Irving and Wooddale that will allow a left turn when the train is blocking. And that's important that people, in order to get through the tracks, if there's a blockage, that it will allow a left. And if somebody needed to, they could actually do that kind of roundabout way to make their way north on Wooddale Road.
Ariel? No, Joe.
I think Dan was first.
May I call you Matt?
Sure.
Okay. Matt, in your mind, how does this compare to A1 and A2 that we had before?
In terms of safety, it's probably not, it doesn't provide you all the benefits that 2 and 2A did, but it does give us other benefits, such as the cost is a lot lower for this option, and it's more in line with the amount that's in the grant, and it's more likely to be constructed because it's within money's already set aside. And secondly, it's something that I don't think can be overlooked, is that this new bypass is always, it's going to be in a depression, and it's always been a concern that that's being built kind of within the existing floodplain. And what this option, it really prevents, if there were some sort of catastrophe and the underpass was flooded, with this option here, it would be more of a local street that would be put out of commission, whereas in 2 and 2A, if that was flooded, Irving Park itself would be shut down completely. So I think we're getting some indications from IDOT that they almost prefer something of this type of a design when it comes to hydraulics and the whole floodplain issue.
Why wasn't this number 3 in the first place? No, that's not a fair question. I mean,
Well-
it's just a little irritating that, we went that far with the others, and we could have done this right off the bat if somebody had thought of it, an engineer had thought of it. I do have a couple of more questions, though.
Can I answer that one real quick?
Go ahead.
I think the way we typically design a project is you design it for the optimum benefits, and we took that to a public meeting. I think we all decided that that was the best route, and it's the public that backed us off and said they want to see more of a scaled-down version, and they don't want to see the big, displacements through the neighborhood. So it was really the public that drove this type of a design.
It would have been nice to have the choice right up front. But I have some other questions. We have 2 lanes going each way on that jug handle, I should call it. Do we really need 2 lanes going each way? Do we have, for instance, on Wooddale going south, do we have a dedicated lane for the turn lane to go onto that jug handle?
As far as the dedicated lanes, yes, there will be dedicated rights to access that.
1 or 2?
There'll just be one lane.
Okay, but there will be a lane that'll go farther back that'll let them get into that lane to turn right.
Correct.
And how about when they come out on Irving Park Road going westbound off the jug handle? Will there be a merge lane there?
No, there won't be. And the reason for that is when you connect to Irving Park, there's a signal. So it's basically just when you go out and see a typical intersection all around the Chicago area, typically we don't provide acceleration lanes when there's a signal at the intersection.
That's what I'm getting at, is do we really, if we did not have 2 lanes going northbound, or had just 1 lane for emergency vehicles only, I don't know if that's possible, would we even need a light there? And would we need a light at the northern part of the jug handle as well? Couldn't we eliminate those lights by having the merged lanes and just having some kind of signage or something preventing cars from turning north on the jug handle except for emergency vehicles? Because that's our concern.
Well, what the benefit is if, and you can back me up here on the ADTs. If I remember correctly, the ADTs, the average daily traffic on the north leg of Wooddale was somewhere in the neighborhood of 15,000 cars a day. Irving Park carries in the neighborhood of about 30,000 cars a day. Not only does this jug handle provide continuous access north and south for any kind of emergency vehicle, but for you, the local community, it's going to provide you north and south access as well. And it's going to provide people that utilize that north leg to never have to cross the rail track if they don't want to. So it gives you a lot of different runarounds. It gives you the option, if you're coming from the south, that you actually want to funnel traffic through there. So you don't, if we take this element out, the only folks that would benefit by the new signal controller box would be these left turners going northbound to westbound. Whereas if a train's here providing blockage, if you're going straight and you want to go north, you can make that movement and do that circuitous movement, because if you know how the trains work here, once the train pulls out of station, the green cycles back to Irving Park. And especially during rush hour, when you have multiple trains coming and Wooddale doesn't get a green light for 5-10 minutes, you're in a situation where now you can clear these queues, and that's both ways. So you're getting that benefit, and the local driver will know that.
If I can follow up with one last question.
Okay.
If you're talking about 15,000 cars going on Wooddale Road, and you're talking about using that jug handle for emergency lanes, my fear is that the traffic's going to be in that culvert or in the jug handle, and the the fire truck won't be able to get through the traffic.
Well, you're talking about 15,000 cars over the course of a day. And when you start talking about traffic, peak hours, you take 10%, move through the peak hours. So 1,500 cars a day. And then you spread that over time. It's not going to be as congested as it sounds. So it's providing mobility beyond just the emergency access and the emergency connection or the connectivity of the town.
All right, thank you.
Alderman Knight.
Yeah, my concern is with the underpass. How did you design, or what did you design for that underpass to stay dry into what storm event? 'Cause, we have like 300-year floods a year. We just finished, 180-year storm or whatever, that everything went under in Irving Park. How are you going to keep that open? I mean, we have just regular downpours that'll flood that thing out.
Right. I think it's standard to design underpasses for more of a 100-year flood. It's those 300-year floods will flood everything. It's not economical to design for that. So we start off, we follow IDOT's guidelines, and they make us design for a 100-year flood. Some of the things we are doing to, like you say, we are building an underpass in the floodplain. So some of the things we're doing is basically starting at the bridge that goes over Salt Creek. We're bringing Irving Park up and out of the floodplain. So what that does is we don't want water just to roll and go straight into the underpass. It'd kind of be like filling a bathtub. So we are building it up on all sides so that the water is blocked and can't get into this underpass. It does provide some benefits. The areas that were down between Irving Park and the tracks that were currently in the floodplain, those are likely going to be pulled out and removed from their properties being in the floodplain. And just I just want to expand on how we build these areas up. I mentioned how we bring the road up and over. We'll be building retaining walls and berms that are outside of that 100-year floodplain to assure that any flooding coming from the creek will be blocked by that berm. Like I said, the pump station is designed for a 100-year flood, and that pump station is going to be located in this new infield area here. The pump station itself, just to limit how much work it has to do, only pumps out water that's in this jug handle.
How do you intend to keep the flow then from east to west, since the watershed flows to the west to the creek?
The storm sewers all still drain. The storm sewers are all underground, and we're not going to change those grades. It's just the surface of where water's running off to. It's all going to drain into the same storm sewer system and drain to the same locations. It's just we're adding almost a hump right here to divert some of the water back to the creek and some of the water this way, which will be picked up in the storm sewers and sent back towards the creek where its original outflow was. So the end result of the drainage isn't going to change is when you look at the storm sewer system. It's just some of the runoff and where water's running to left and right. That's going to change to a minor extent.
Alderman Cadella.
Two questions with regards to turn lanes. The eastbound jug handle, could there be two left turn lanes to go north on Wooddale Road? Because let's face it, there'd be very few right turns there, and that's most of your traffic that would use this jug handle is going to want to do that. So is that something that could be done?
You're talking about this left turn movement?
Well, no. Keep going east, get all the way to Wooddale Road. No. Take the jug handle. Yeah,
Oh.
there should be. I mean, anybody that turns north to take the curve and end up going east to go to Wooddale Road, I gotta believe that a majority of those vehicles are going to be making a left, not a right.
Right. I believe that's how we're going to stripe it. Our modeling's still being worked out, but if you have two lanes, you can't go through, so that
Exactly.
right lane will probably be a shared, you can go left or right out of that.
Okay, and then the next
East
question
and
is,
south lane.
okay, that's fine. The next question is similar and it's probably the same answer. The opposite direction of the jug handle, two right turn lanes to go west onto Irving Park Road.
Correct.
As
Where
well.
that outside would be a decision, because
Right.
here, you have to allow people to go through to Edgebrook.
Sure.
But
Okay,
Same,
thanks.
same concept.
Okay.
And what you'll see is, especially on the north leg, it's a three-legged intersection. Whereas at any typical four-legged intersection, the left turners, if you have a high volume, they get an arrow for some of the time, and then it goes green ball, and it's a permitted phase, you have to wait for there's a gap. Here, whatever amount of time is allocated to it, the left turners are going to be going. So a three-legged intersection is going to work very well.
Alderman Lewison.
Hello? Okay. I saw a TV story about the engineering of the tunnel under the English Channel. And one thing that impressed me about it was they talked about escape. In case of an auto accident, how would people escape out of the tunnel? And the answer in the engineering was a sidewalk. for people who were able to move on their own, to get out. They needed to abandon the cars in the tunnel and get out, and if there's not a sidewalk, there's no way to escape. Now, that's a long tunnel. This is a short tunnel. In that one, the sidewalk was in the middle of the tunnel with firewalls on each side, so people could escape, going back to England or going on to France, but they would be protected by firewalls, so they would enter. I know on this, don't think you need a firewall and the sidewalk in the middle, but sidewalks on each side for emergency to people get out of cars if there's a head-on collision, to be able to get out, and also it can be used for people to go between the street and the park.
Now, you do bring up a good point in this, and something I forgot to mention earlier. One of the recommendations coming out of the safety committee is that it's actual kids coming from south of Irving getting to the water park. There's that lack of access from north to south. So one of the things we are adding on this side of the jug handle will be a sidewalk, and it serves two functions. One is anytime you build an underpass, you do have to have that safety escape to get out. So there will be a sidewalk on that north side. But it also provides passage from pedestrians down in this area. They could walk along that sidewalk on the north side and access the water park that way. So it kind of is serving two functions. One, for the safety of people getting out, and two, it provides another crossing for kids trying to access the water park.
To go on with the same subject, I would like to see a sidewalk on both sides so that people can enter the park area, the east park area, the part that's east of the jug handle, because that's going to be a major park area for recreation also. And I think it's important that we have sidewalk on both sides of the street. Also for the security, because if people have to escape from cars, we don't want them jumping over cars to get to the sidewalk on one side. We want them to be able to get out on the side that their car is on, so the people going north can get off onto one sidewalk and the people going south can get off onto a sidewalk. So I would like to ask you, when you present this next month at the public information meeting, I would like the engineering to show a sidewalk on each side of the road under the tunnel. I mean, not under the tunnel, in the tunnel.
We'll definitely take that into advisement. One thing I do want to caution you is we've really tried to limit how much we're trying to push under this underpass. Every time we add out, it's going to lengthen that span of the railroad bridge. And it does two things. It deepens how deep the steel has to be, and it adds to the cost. So it's going to be kind of a trade-off. We'll definitely look in to see if a sidewalk's warranted there, and we'll look at the trade-off in cost it has and impacts to that railroad structure.
Well, maybe cost isn't the only reason to do it one way. If it can be done, and I'm pretty sure it can be done, because you just said it would mean that you'd widen, deepen. I think it would be very important before somebody gets burned to death because they can't escape on the other side, and then people ask, what was that life worth? So I think you need sidewalks on both sides. You know, they don't have to be 4 people deep, just enough for one person to be able to go, because if something happens, that's not a long tunnel, people get out quickly, and they'll just need a few paces. So for one person on each side would be sufficient.
Okay, concern is noted.
My other concern is what I've heard from people who've seen this, who have property on the west side, on the east side of Wooddale Road. They don't like that there is a road going, there is access going eastbound on Commercial off of Wooddale Road. Anybody who wants to go eastbound on Commercial can come up Walnut and go east from the turn. It's going to cause a problem with with traffic. I think that going north is fine. I think that should be a one-way going west for the last block from Walnut to Wooddale. One way going west with turn only going north. No eastbound turn over there.
Alderman Lewiton, can you show us where Walnut is in relation to, so we can see what we're talking about
Sure.
here?
Walnut is the street just to the east of Wooddale, and it parallels Wooddale Road. I think with your concern there, I don't want to commit to an answer now. I think we're going to have to look at more modeling of movements in the whole area. We definitely note your concern, and we can report back to the council at the next meeting.
Thank you, Matt.
All right, at this time, I'd like to defer to Chairman Winger.
Thank you. I understand it. Alderman Wesley, you'd like to be recognized?
Okay. So your proposal is a dead end on Wood Street, am I correct?
Correct.
Make it
It'd
a
be
dead end.
cul-de-sac.
So that means they cannot come out coming towards Irving anymore. So they would have to go down
One additional block.
one
yes.
additional block. Okay, may I
Yeah.
do a follow-up? Okay, and my other concern is the businesses that are in the floodplain, we will be out of floodplain with this plan?
Likely. We haven't had, I don't want to commit to this too much because we haven't had too many dealings with the county stormwater ordinance.
Okay.
One of the concerns is everybody you take out of the floodplain, you have to make up for it somewhere else.
I understand it.
And the problem with that area, this area here, there's not a lot of what we call compensatory storage. You take it away from someone else, you have to provide it in another location.
So how would you correct that problem?
One of the initial proposals we have is where we're putting in the new access to the water park. There is kind of an open field here, and there are technologies out there where you can provide compensatory storage kind of underground in pipes. So that would be one of the only logical solutions we could provide for a project such as this.
Okay,
Typically, if it's an area where it's not as developed, you just dig a pond that when it floods, it would fill up the pond and expel. But there's not a lot of open area for this project.
once you start digging to go underground, what if you can't do it, that there's water table under there? How are you going to address that issue?
As part of the phase 1 study, we do soil borings, and we've had people out here that have actually taken soil cores